Hey everyone, Jamie here from TechnicalCafe.com. Welcome to your 8th Java tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to be talking about for loops in Java, which are a type of repetitive or iterative statement that makes it a lot easier for programmers to repeat things, since computers are really good at doing things repetitively. For example, let's say we wanted to print the numbers 1 to 10 to the screen. What we could do is go ahead and do system.out.println, print 1, and then do this again for 2, 3, 4, all the way up through 10. And in some cases, you're going to be printing many more things than that, or dealing with many more things than that. But there's an easier way to do it than doing each one separately, and that's by using a for loop. And a for loop is useful for if you have a finite number of things. You don't necessarily need to know the value. It could be, parsed in from a file or something like that. But if there's a finite number of things, a for loop will usually prove useful or come in handy if you need to do things repetitively. So let's go ahead and learn the syntax for a for loop. And what we're going to do is type in the word for, which is a reserved word in Java. It lights up purple there. We're going to follow that with a parameter list using a set of parentheses. And then we're going to follow that with a set of curly braces for our code block. And whatever is in between these two curly braces is what's going to happen each time our loop iterates, or each time we pass through the loop. So if we want to do something 10 times, whatever's in between these curly braces is going to happen 10 times. And for a for loop, just like for an if statement, we're going to have some conditions that need to be met here. And a for loop has 3, unlike an if statement, which can have multiple if you want. So let's go ahead and learn the 3 conditions for a for loop. So seeing as we're going to be doing things repetitively, we want to know where to start. So we're going to have a starting condition, also known as the initialization condition, where you're going to start the for loop at. To go along with that, we're going to have an ending or termination condition. So for example, if we want to print the numbers 1 to 10, we're going to start at 1 and end at 10. And then we're going to have what's known as the iterative condition. And this is what's going to happen for each pass of the loop. So do we want to add numbers? Do we want to multiply? Do we want to subtract, divide? Things like that. So iterative. And you'll notice that when we type these in, our error goes away because we've fulfilled the conditions. Now you don't actually need all 3 of these conditions, but we're just going to deal with all 3 of them right now. In many cases, you're going to actually use all 3 of them, so no sense in confusing anybody here. So let's go ahead and create a for loop that prints the numbers 1 to 10 to the screen. So what we're going to do is create a starting condition, and we're going to say int I equals 1, because we want to print the numbers 1 to 10 to the screen. And you'll notice that it might look a little bit weird to have an integer variable being defined within the condition of something, but that's completely legal in Java. You can actually define it up here if you'd like, and just include the letter I if you'd like. But either way is going to work just fine. If you need to, in some cases you will, you can define a variable within the for loop, and that's going to be useful only within the for loop. And this is what's known as the scope of a variable, and we'll learn about that a little bit later on. But just for now, we're going to define an int variable called I within the condition list, and we're going to separate these with a semicolon. So now that since we're printing the numbers 1 to 10 to the screen, what we're going to do is create an ending condition. So when I is less than or equal to 10, we're going to stop the for loop. So we're going to stop iterating. And you'll notice that we said less than or equal to 10 because if I was less than 10, what would happen is the for loop would stop at 9 because 9 is the highest number that's less than 10. And for each pass in the loop, we're going to add 1. So we're going to say I plus plus. We could say I plus equals 1 if you'd like. But I plus plus is the shorthand to do that. And that's just, how to go about saying that we want to add 1 each time. We could do I minus minus if we want, and, things like that. So now that we have our conditions set, we're going to start at 1, end at 10, and add 1 each time. Let's go ahead and say what we want to do for each time the loop iterates. So system.out.println, and what are we going to print to the screen here? What we're going to print is the value of I. So we're going to start at 1 and end at 10. We want to print all of these numbers to the screen. We'll just print the letter. We'll just print whatever's inside of I at the time. So let's go ahead and compile and run this and see what happens. You'll notice now that we have the numbers 1 all the way up through 10 printed to our console here, and that is because the loop iterated 10 times, started at I, and started at 1, ended at 10, and added 1 each time. So the value of I changed 10 times. Alright, so now let's go ahead and do something else with our for loop. So let's say, for example, we wanted to print the squares of each of these numbers. That's completely fine. We can say I times I, and each time that the for loop iterates, we're going to do, square it. So 1 times 1, 2 times 2, all the way up to 10 times 10. And notice now that we have our squares, 1, 4, 9, 16, all the way up through 100. Let's try something else with our for loop here. So we're going to leave this the same. We're just going to leave it as I like we did before. And instead we're going to start our for loop at 10. We're going to set it so that when I is greater than or equal to 1, and what we're going to do is subtract 1 each time. So we're starting at 10, ending at 1, and we're going to subtract 1 each time, and we'll see what happens here. So you'll notice that we started at 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, all the way down to 1. So that's an example of how you can use minus minus with a for loop. So feel free to fool around with the for loops. Try different things. Maybe add a couple other statements in here. So for example, we could say system.out.println, hey. And I'll first show you what that looks like when we comment this out. You'll notice that we just have the 10 hey printed 10 times. For example, if we wanted to add this back in, you're going to notice what happens is that we get a number, then hey, then a number, then hey, because it's going to do this, then this 10 times. And it's just something to fool around with, play around with, try different combinations, try editing the variables, and seeing what happens. So if you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the comments below. You can tweet me at twitter.com/jamiemcg, and also feel free to check out technicalcafe.com for more tech blog posts and things like that. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.